Episode 242, Breaking Food Rules and Finding Body Trust with Lisa Salisbury.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with a coach? Here we go.
In this episode, Heather is joined by Lisa Salisbury, a life and health coach who helps women break free from diet culture and heal their relationship with food. Lisa opens up about her personal journey from chronic dieting to discovering intuitive eating and how her faith and mindset shifts played a key role. Together, they explore what it means to make peace with food, let go of shame, and rebuild trust with your body. Whether you've struggled with disordered eating or simply want to feel more confident in your food choices, this episode offers encouragement and practical wisdom for finding a sustainable path forward. Please enjoy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast today. Glad to have you. And I'm glad to be joined by a returning coach, Coach Lisa Salisbury. Hi, Lisa. How you doing?
Hi, good. Glad to be here.
So happy to have you here. Like I said, Lisa's been on before. Her episodes are some of our highest listened episodes. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
How fun.
As I'm talking to you right now, the last time I looked, one of your episodes has got one of the highest listenerships that we've had. So anyway, people resonate. People are interested in what you have to say. Anyway, I'm going to have Lisa introduce herself here in just a second, but I want you guys to go back and find those episodes and listen to those things that are obviously have piqued people's interest. So anyway, Lisa, before we get started, can you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll get going.
Okay, great. So I'm Lisa Salisbury. I am a health and weight loss coach, and I primarily help women, and men. I have had men clients as well. I help them figure out why they're eating when they're not hungry. It's usually more important than what they're eating. And so we really dive into figuring out how to eat when you're hungry, how to stop when you've had enough, and to really just ditch fad dieting and get back to the basics. So a lot of what I teach is really, really boring. And it's not the sexy stuff. You're never going to hear me say just do this one thing and your weight will drop off. And you're never going to see me yelling in the grocery store about ingredients. It's not all of that crazy stuff. It's getting back to the basics and learning how to make your life amazing so that food doesn't have that job, so that food isn't your only way to celebrate or compensate or comfort. And so it's all of the things that you talk about with other coaches, like working on all of that other stuff to make your life amazing. But if you decide that you want to lose weight first before you want to work on relationships, that's a great way because you're going to work on your relationship with yourself. If you decide you're going to lose weight before you're going to manage your time, then great. Let's get you trusting yourself on eating what you plan to eat. And then you'll probably be able to easily transition into managing your calendar and doing what you say you're going to do. So it really can be the first step into a lot of these other coaching aspects that we talk about, that you interview other coaches here on the podcast. Weight loss can actually be a great place to start because you just build so much trust and accountability with yourself. And you figure out what are the other issues? Am I eating because I'm stressed about my children? Do I need help with that? Am I eating because, my job is really difficult? And so once you kind of get the food managed, then you can attack these other issues as well.
Trust is huge. Like you said, what you help people with really kind of bridges to so many other things. And trust is like a bottom line. Learning to trust yourself it's foundational.
Totally. Hmm.
What would you say? I mean, I guess it sounds more intuitive. Like I know that's kind of some lingo that's out there, intuitive eating. What would you, and
Yeah.
people who can't see you or seeing you be like, can you speak to that a little bit? Like, what's the difference?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm not an intuitive eating coach.
Okay.
And the primary reason why is because to be an intuitive eating coach, like certified, and to really be able to teach that, you cannot promote weight loss, intentional weight loss of any kind.
Okay.
And intuitive eating can be extremely helpful for those, especially that are recovering from an eating disorder. If you need to, to delve into that, and there's certain principles, and I don't have them all memorized, like I said, because I'm not an intuitive eating
Hmm.
coach. Yes, there is some intuition that is used here when I talk about using like the hunger scale. We're thinking about how our body feels, we're waiting for hunger, and then we're eating until we've had enough. So yes, that can kind of be the same. But a lot of times when people think that they're intuitive eating, they're actually think they're kind of doing a free for all eat. And they're like, "Oh, I just have total food freedom and I just eat whatever I want, whenever I want." And there ends up being like no structure, no rules, no accountability. That's when you're doing intuitive eating wrong. If you're going to do it with an actual coach, they would guide you. But if you're just kind of thinking, "Oh, that's what I want," that's just a free for all. And I can't take away the consequences that are going to come with that. And what I mean primarily is how you're going to feel. You're going to have indigestion, you're going to have heartburn, you're going to have bloating, you're going to, right? Like there's going to be a lot of digestive issues from that. And possibly if you really are eating as much as you, quote unquote, as much as you want, you're probably going to be gaining weight. But what we want is to have just like, we all have commandments. There are consequences when we don't. We actually want, the old, like I can just imagine those little cartoons in the Friend magazine or the New Era magazine when we were young, and it was like the cartoon of the guardrail. Like right, the commandments are like the guardrail.
Uh-huh.
And that's how having a little bit of structure around your eating can feel. It just gives you that guardrail, and you're not in a prison. You just have some structure.
Okay, gotcha. So freedom, that's another, I think that's more what I'm hearing you say is like, and I've heard you say it in the past, like food freedom. So tell me what that means to you and how it's different from simply just eating whenever you want.
Yeah. So when people come to me and they're like, I just want to have some food freedom. What they think they want this like eat whatever I want with no consequences.
Hmm.
But really, my definition of food freedom is being in control and being the decision maker. When we let food be the decision maker, that is not freedom. So, for example, like you go to an activity and there's refreshments and you're like, "Well, I have to have the refreshments." Or there's a bowl of chocolate being passed around Relief Society and you're like, "How do I not like take the chocolate?" Or you're at a restaurant you don't go to that often and you're thinking, "Well, I have to get the special muffin. I hardly ever come here." That is food being in control of your decisions because you're letting that food determine if you're going to eat it or not. Like you have to take the chocolate, right? But real food freedom is thinking, do I actually want this? And do I want to deal with the consequences of this? Right? It's not real food freedom is not like eating the leftovers because you don't want them to get thrown away. Real food freedom says, is this food I actually want to eat? I get to make those decisions. And you're not eating because everyone else is. You're free to say, "I'm not hungry," or "That doesn't look good to me." You're not eating because food is just there, right?
Hmm.
The pantry isn't controlling you. You are making those decisions. That's what's real food freedom. And if you decide what's really important today is for me to meet my sugar intake goal, I'm not going to eat that chocolate. That is actually freedom to not eat it, right? Because you are making that decision. I think it's really a really important distinction because you feel you may have felt in the past restricted from that. You may have felt like I can't have that chocolate. and deciding for yourself. Like one of my favorite thoughts, I know a lot of coaches talk about the thought model. One of my favorite thoughts is I eat when and what I decide. I make the decisions. I decide when, not the clock, not because everyone else is. I decide what. It's not because they're ordering it. I order what I want to order, or I make what I want to make for lunch. I just don't I when I'm in control of the decisions, that is freedom to me.
Thank you. I think that was a really good description and something that gives people something to think about. I think we don't always think of it in those terms. I can also see that that concept could possibly feel intimidating to people. Like they feel overwhelmed or they might not know what it looks like in practice. And especially for those who have maybe had a history of dieting and restrictive eating, what would you say to people who feel overwhelmed by that or just don't even know where to start?
It can be kind of tricky because you're used to, again, if you've been a chronic dieter, you're used to buying the diet book and following the food list in Appendix A, right?
Hmm.
You're used to having someone else tell you what to eat. And when I tell you, you actually get to decide what you eat, a lot of times people are like, I don't even know. It's too confusing. It's too much. That is too much freedom. I need that food list. I need to be told. But that is what I consider restriction. If somebody from the outside, even if it's a diet book or a plan you bought online, even if you're the one that buys it, right? And you're like, oh no, this is what I'm going to do. It's still someone else giving you a food list, giving you a meal plan, giving you all of the things to eat, and you're still trying to follow that. That feels really restricted. So, an easy way to just kind of step into this is just planning one meal a day. So, just decide you're going to do like a breakfast experiment every day this week. I'm going to plan my breakfast ahead. And if you are creative enough to come up with something different, or even just 3 or 4 different things to have during the week, and see what works for your body. Like just because your friend has 2 eggs and a turkey sausage for breakfast and is like, that's perfect for me, doesn't mean you aren't going to need some piece of toast with that. Or that it doesn't mean that oatmeal doesn't work better for you. Like, give it a try, be willing to experiment. And this is like keeping track of what you're eating and how you feel on it will really help to kind of guide you in this, like determining what your own boundaries are rather than feeling restricted. You can take some of those meals. Even I've done this, like, I'm like, oh, I remember this recipe I used on such and such diet. I remember really liking that. That's great. You can use things and resources that you've used before in past times that you've lost weight and then incorporate them now and see how you feel on them. So it's not that you have to throw out everything you've ever learned. So I think that's the other reason why, like, this total, like, you're in charge can feel overwhelming is it's not that everything you've ever done to lose weight before was wrong or bad. If you kind of look at, like, how have I lost weight in the past? Well, I ate quite a bit of fruits and vegetables, and I really prioritized protein, and I drank a lot of water. Those are the principles, regardless of what fad diet helped you to apply those principles. Does that make sense? So
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
you decide, like, okay, I'm going to apply these basic principles, like I said, it's not like what I sell is not sexy, right? Like, I just help you eat the protein when you don't feel like eating the protein,
Right,
right?
right. Well, I mean, and to your point, you're not, a lot of people just want, I'll just tell me what to do. A plus B equals C, right?
Mhm.
They just want somebody to tell them exactly what to do. And I'm hearing you talk about that, and it makes me think about, kind of some of this is totally a separate issue, but kind of some of the throwback that we got when the church kind of took back the For Strength of the Youth, not took back, but kind of did a new
Oh,
one.
yeah. Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
people, they just want to know, just tell me what to do and I'll do it because they think that
Yeah.
there's a checklist to be back, to return to our heavenly parents. And really
Hmm.
there's not. And it's just a matter of learning how to trust ourselves. So once again, this is one of those things that is foundational to so many things, learning to trust. But I'm curious, when you said you figure out what works for you, what does work for you mean?
Oh, yeah, sure. So, we want to feel good in our bodies. Like, ultimately, when we're losing weight, we don't want to be eating things that feel not good. And a lot of digestive symptoms come from especially prepackaged diet foods. And so you're used to losing weight maybe on shakes and bars and those kinds of things, and they don't actually feel that great because of all the additives and stuff.
Hmm.
And so you want to think about what works for you. So there's a couple of things. Is number one, you like the taste of it. Number two, it keeps you full and satisfied or enough, feeling enough and satisfied. And you're going to drop down to that kind of zero on the hunger scale. So I teach a hunger scale that goes from -10 through +10. Zero is neutral, neither
Hmm.
hungry nor full. So we want to spend the most of our day around that 0 point. We don't want to be struggling with hunger all the time, and we don't want to be feeling over full. So meals that work for you are going to have you in that feeling most of the day. So you're going to
Okay.
eat, and then you're going to stop eating and have several hours, usually like 3 or 4, where you feel good. You feel like energy, and you're not sluggish after this meal. You're not thinking you need to take a nap because you ate so much. So it works for you because it's the right amount,
Gotcha.
and you're just not having, major digestive symptoms.
Hmm.
Sometimes I remember doing an interview one time, and this guy was like, well, every time I go to this one particular restaurant, and I don't know the name because it was back east and I don't go there, he's like, I always feel so terrible. It's like a gut bomb. And I was like, tell me what's in it. And it was like a Chipotle bowl kind of thing that it was
Hmm.
really similar, where you add like the meat and the beans, and I'm like, it doesn't sound like any of those ingredients are really troublesome. And my question is it just too much volume? And
Mm.
he was like, what? Like, good food can just be too much volume. So that's
Right.
another way that it works for you.
Gotcha.
And so we want to figure out again, and part of that is listening to your body on stopping at enough, but having foods that fill you to satisfied, and then you're able to go several hours without eating, and then wait for hunger and then eat again a meal. So I do discourage a lot of snacking, and I mean like and by that I mean like multiple snacks in a day. If you're like, I can't make it between lunch and dinner because of timing, that's like 6 hours, 6 or 7 hours, because of timing of work or children or whatever, and you need to have a mid meal there, that's fine. What I'm discouraging is the every half hour, every hour running through the kitchen and grabbing a little snack, a handful of this, a handful of that. Then we're just kind of spending time either always a little bit full or always a little bit hungry, trying to like stave it off. And we never
Mhm.
get that really like, oh, that meal worked for me feeling. Is
Gotcha.
that
Yeah.
helpful? Was
Yeah, it totally does. And just a quick other follow-up question. Do you ever find that it's hard for people to distinguish the difference between this isn't working for me, like I don't feel great, and just kind of that it's more of a mental thing. Like I don't feel
mm,
great because I ate. They're afraid of what they do. But they're afraid more of like the emotional sides of eating versus you. Do you find that ever with your clients? I don't know that I'm asking that well, but can you see what I'm asking? It becomes more of
um
an emotional thing. They're fearful of eating versus like being able to recognize that it works for their body versus not works for their body.
Yeah, I think fear of eating comes in especially when they feel confused about nutrition.
Hmm.
Like, I just don't know what to eat. And a lot of this confusion comes from, in my opinion, from social media,
Hmm.
because you get on social media, and I'm sure you've seen these parodies of, you're watching and it's like, don't eat eggs. Eggs are the powerhouse of your day, right? Like, you're like, what? And, half the people are telling you like fruit is worse than a chocolate bar, and the other half are telling you, I eat only fruit. And right. So it can get confusing when you get all of your nutrition information from social media. And so I have had clients say, like, I ate this, but is it okay? Was
Hmm.
this an okay meal? And that's where some of that fear comes from is, and primarily the underlying question there, where this is like that parenthetical thought when you're doing the thought model and they tell you what the thought is, but it's that underlying, like, but should I kind of thing. The underlying parenthetical thought is, but will this help me lose weight?
Yeah.
And that's the fear is, if I eat this, is it going to help me lose weight? And so, yeah, I do see that. And the solution to that, again, is almost always the amount.
Hmm.
Are we eating past enough?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it really speaks to having some, with any coaching issue, anything that you're seeking for help for, having somebody to help you sift through what's going on in your brain is super helpful.
Mhm.
Anyway, so thank you. Thanks for answering the questions for me. So there is a big difference, and I know you teach this, I can tell by what you're saying, between restrictions and, we could use the word boundaries when it comes to eating food. And people probably haven't heard the word boundaries used a whole lot in a food context, but can you walk us through what that difference is and why boundaries you feel like can be more empowering and sustainable in the long run?
Yeah. Restrictions, I think I said before, are usually placed on you by other people. Even if you buy the diet book, right?
Hmm.
Even if you are like, I'm going to do this, they're set up by other people. So when people come and say like, I don't want to do a diet that's so restrictive, that's what they're talking about. Whereas boundaries are something we create for ourselves. So if you've listened to some of the episodes on setting boundaries for, in relationships, boundaries are a self-created structure that are set with intention, with supportive limits, kindness, and they're things that you will do in a given situation. Like the whole concept of boundaries for us life coaches is like, you decide, if somebody yells at me, I will leave the room. Like that's a boundary. It's not, you can't yell at me. That's a restriction because
Hmm.
I'm telling someone else what to do. So when we create boundaries around our food, we can actually do this with like love and with our prefrontal cortex, right? And so boundaries help reduce our decision fatigue. They eliminate food drama, just can create a lot of clarity and self trust because it's like, this is what I do in a situation. I don't have to worry about what other people do in that situation. I don't have to worry about really what other people think of me in that situation. You're just like, this is how you know, how I navigate the very confusing and very huge like food world. Like there is so much food. And so when we're just like, I have food freedom, blah, right? We're just like a toddler without an edge to our sandbox, right?
Gotcha.
Boundaries give toddlers those like clear, consistent limits, which gives them a sense of security. And if you think about the two parts of the brain where we have your prefrontal cortex that is able to set these boundaries and think ahead and think about our future self, and then that toddler brain, that lower part that is impulsive and emotional and throws tantrums, they just like want what they want right now. The boundaries set with the higher brain can help kind of guide the lower brain in those situations.
Gotcha. I'm envisioning like bowling, the bumpers that you can put down in the lane so
Mm,
that your ball doesn't go into the gutter. It's just kind of like, it's like that guardrail, like you said, in
yeah,
the,
yeah.
so there's a lot of different things, different ways we could visualize that kind of give us something to, a way to visualize that. You mentioned the toddler brain, and I always think that's such a great descriptor because if you haven't got to experience a toddler in the checkout line at the grocery store, lucky you. But, it's impulsive, it's emotional. That's the part of our brains that throw the tantrums. And how do boundaries help calm that part of our brain? I think you've touched on
Mhm.
that a little bit, but
Yeah, I just feel like that lower part of our brain, we often resort to it in eating because it's very efficient. Because when we delegate tasks down there, it's because it's a habit. And so we grab a bowl of cereal at 9 p.m. because that's our habit and routine, not because we're necessarily hungry. And in order to like calm that toddler part that, and by the way, I think that toddler part is the one that's screaming for that free for all food freedom. Like, I deserve it. I need a break. I need to calm this anxiety. And you know what? Food works. I can look in my past and I can look at how many times I've felt this way, and the food works. The food calms the anxiety. So, it's true. And so we delegate this down to the habit brain. When we feel this anxiety, we grab a bowl of cereal. When we feel this anxiety, we soothe it with an afternoon snack. And so obviously, like, we're not children. We have fully functioning prefrontal cortexes, but we want to use that part to just create some boundaries. So just let me give you some example of boundaries.
Okay.
Can I do that? Okay.
Yeah, please.
Just some things that create structure without feeling like restriction. So one thing, like, just little, you can just do like little different rules. Like, I don't eat standing up. This is a really clear boundary for me, because think about the times that you eat standing up. You're in front of the pantry, you're in front of the fridge, you're grabbing chips straight from the bag. You're not usually eating a salad standing up, right? If I'm standing up, I'm fixing dinner and I'm snacking on all of the little things that I'm fixing. Last night, I was making chicken parmesan and I was like eating some cheese, and I'm like, oh, okay. And obviously, just because this is a boundary for me, like, I don't eat standing up, doesn't mean I don't remember. Like, I remember every single time. But then it's a cue to me, like, oh yeah, I don't do that. Just because it helps with our intentionality when we sit down with a plate and a fork and a napkin and we're sitting down and eating. We eat with more intention. Another one I like is I close the kitchen after dinner. So I like to go to bed with a tidy kitchen. If you're like, oh, I do dishes in the morning, fine, put the food away, but then you turn the lights off and then the kitchen is closed. So just like when you're at a hotel and they're like, room service hours are, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Like, if you call at 11:30, like, the kitchen's closed. You can't get food. And so I just feel like I'm done eating after dinner. And it's not because something magical happens in your body if you eat after 7. Like, there's not it's not like, oh, it's going to go straight to fat, which is what I used to believe if I ate after 7 p.m., right? But I'm just done eating for the day for a lot of reasons. It helps me sleep better when I don't go to bed with a full tummy. I, extend my fasting window, which is just like the time that I'm not eating overnight. And so I don't need to be eating right up until the time I go to bed. Most of the time, if I eat after dinner, it's snack foods or high calorie. Actually, one of our favorite snacks, my family, is like dried mangoes or dried strawberries that Costco has. Those things are like, they're still full of sugar, like added sugars, right? And so they're kind of like candy. They're very delicious, but those are the kinds of things that my family ends up eating in the evening. And I'm like, I don't need that. And so for me, I just try to close the kitchen. So a lot of the boundaries aren't necessarily about specific foods, but just like the way that you eat. You can decide that you're going to, I mean, I talked about snacking. You can eat at very consistent times instead of grazing. I think that's really a really good boundary to have, is like, I eat at meal times. If you have trouble with certain foods, you can decide for a while, like, I'm just not going to bring home foods that are triggers for me. And by triggers, it's like those foods that are really easy for you to overeat. If it's a food where you're like, I just have trouble stopping, like, it's not bananas, right? When you buy a bunch of bananas, like, people that villainize fruit, I'm always like, really? When's the last time you had a banana and then had to eat the entire bunch? Right?
Yes.
It's it's not the bananas. It's more of the ultra processed foods that are made to be very consumable. And that's fine. Like, you can have them occasionally, but if you're like, I just have a really hard time not eating this whole bag when I open it, maybe just lay off those for a while. Maybe your boundary is just, you know what, for a few months or for however long I decide, I'm just not buying that anymore. And other people can buy it. And so maybe your boundary is, I don't eat it if I don't buy it. right? There's ways that you can do that. You don't have to go throwing out everything in your pantry, but it's just the idea like maybe just don't replenish those things. So these are the kind of boundaries. And then, I mean, the ultimate boundary that I really help my clients with is to plan ahead what you're going to eat, utilizing a tool like a 24-hour practical plan where you're creating like, what do I really want to eat today, using your higher brain, and then eating that. That's a little bit higher level. You can have some of these smaller decisions that just kind of help guide the way that you might eat during the day. And so those are kind of some examples.
Thank you. I think examples are always really helpful, especially if we're thinking like to some people, like I said, boundaries, they maybe have not heard it in that context before. So thank you for sharing those. But if these examples don't resonate with our listeners, how could they go about setting their own boundaries, right? Everybody
Hmm.
has different things. How could they do that?
Yeah, because we all have different things that we struggle with. Maybe you've never eaten standing up in your whole life, or maybe you don't allow people to eat in your car. Like, I, I haven't seen very many family cars that we just sold we're actually just cleaning out our van, finally selling our minivan that's been like the family car forever. And I
Mhm.
can't even imagine if we hadn't eaten in the van. But, for some people, they're like, oh, I would never, so it depends on what you need. So I think setting boundaries when you're kind of thinking about this, you can use tools that parenting experts use with children. So one of the things they say, I actually looked up this list recently. She said, set boundaries from a place of calm leadership. And I think this is so good for health goals because when you're in a place of desperation, it sounds like I've got to get this weight off before the wedding, before the cruise, before the reunion. Like that is not a place of calm. You're in desperation mode and you are way more likely to go to that fad diet, right? You're
Mm.
way more likely to crash, huge restrictions. When you are the leader, when you're in a place of calm, you're thinking about your future and like, what would really work for me? And this is where things like, oh, the basics. I'm going to work on my protein and my fiber intake this month, right? When you're in a place of calm leadership, you're not looking for the quick fix. So I think that helps you keep away from scammy fad diet kind of things. I want you to use like firm but loving language. So we want to think about um, really like clear, but also what feels like love for your body. So this would look like something like instead of just putting a restriction, like a restriction rule would be like no cookies for you, right?
Mhm.
Instead, be choosing things like I'd like to incorporate 2 servings of fruit every single day. So it's not just more fruit, it's very specific, it's firm too. And I didn't say none of that for you. I was like, what could we add? So that's firm but loving. I also like to use again, the idea from parenting of offering a creative yes. So when parenting, this is like, do you want to wear the blue shoes or the red shoes? Right? Still got to put the shoes on.
Yep.
Or, another one is like, oh, let's touch the cat with soft hands. Like, stop pulling the cat's tail. So we're thinking about how we can say yes to the things that we really want to do, but in a creative way. So an example of a creative yes for me is a couple years ago, I got a new cookbook and it was 2 peas in their pod. Love her. She's great. And there's a small dessert section. It's one of those that has like a section for every type of food. And we were like, oh, these look so good, and wanted to try all of them. And then like my old diet brain is like, well, you can't eat any of that, or you're gonna just gain weight, right? Because she's always there. That mean girl is just reminding me. And I'm like, how could I eat these though? And so we decided that we were going to make one of her dessert recipes every Sunday until we had made them all out of this chapter. We were going to try them all. And that was such a good creative yes for me because then it also like involved my family. In fact, one of the cakes that we made during that time is turns out to be like my second son's favorite. Now it's like his birthday cake every year when he comes back home. And so it was a way to incorporate things I really wanted to eat, which was dessert. And if you're more of a salty person, you can, do that as well. But I'm really a sweet person. And then we all enjoyed it together. There was enough people in my house that it kind of got eaten up. So there wasn't like dessert for days, like hanging around. And so it was just a way to, and I didn't feel also deprived because I knew what was coming the next week. I knew we had plenty of time to, try something new. And so a lot of times you just feel like, oh, I'll never be able to eat all the things I want to eat. But it was pretty fast to work through that whole chapter. And we, you know, had one every week. So that's kind of an example of like a creative yes. So those are kind of the three ways I take, like I said, from parenting into creating your own boundaries.
I like it. Well, Lisa, thank you. These have been some great ideas and really good ways to look at things, maybe a little bit different perspective. Before we sign off today, is there anything we missed? Anything that we should have talked about? And if not, that's not a big deal. I just want to make sure that we covered it all.
I mean, there's really no way to cover it all with health and weight loss, right? There's a lot, and yet it also is the basics. Like the basics are get enough protein, get enough fiber, drink your water, try and get some sleep. I know it's tricky in midlife. And so that's a whole other conversation. Stress reduction, all of these things can contribute to making weight loss easier. But I think always my biggest advice is don't look for the latest and greatest. It's really and truly back to the basics. And then if you're like, but I can't figure out how to follow the basics. That's what I do, is to help you get out of that crazy like fad diet mindset and help you create a way to lose weight that feels like you could do it forever. I'm always like, if you can't do this thing until you're 80, let's not do it now. Like for the most part, we want to be doing the health promoting behaviors that help you reach your goal weight forever. So if you're doing something that you're like, and this is kind of back to that like desperation, if you're only doing it until it's time for the cruise or until it's time for that reunion, and then you're like, I'm going to go back to my regular way of eating, that tells you that it's not sustainable. And so, these habits that help you lose weight are also the habits that help you maintain and help you feel your very best through midlife and beyond.
Thank you. Sounds like a good way to end. Before we go, though, can you share with people how they can connect with you if they need a little bit more support?
Sure. So I also have a podcast. It's called Eat Well, Think Well, Live Well. So if you want just a little tidbit about your health and wellness every week, jump over there and grab my recent episode. I'm on Instagram I'm on Instagram at well_with_Lisa. Unfortunately, we've got those underscores in there, but I'm sure you'll put the
we're all used to it.
links in the show notes. Also, if you find that overeating, it tends to be your issue, I do have a 3-part video course with a journal that goes with it, and it's called What to Do When You Overeat. And we're not robots, so everybody overeats in their journey to weight loss. Like because it's an experiment and we can't be perfect all the time. Everyone overeats. But if you find yourself overeating too many times to be successful with your weight loss, I want you to download this guide because it really helps you to figure out what to do next and figure out how to get those overeats fewer and farther in between.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. I love it. Thanks for being with me today. It's always a treat for me to get to visit with you. And thank you for those who joined us. And we hope you will join us again next week with another great episode of Latter-day Life Coaches. Have a good one, everybody. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.